beautiful people, it's so lovely to be able to sit down and share a moment with you all. Now what we are going to share is something that has been percolating. It's something that has been unraveling and unfolding over the last 3 to 4 winters, and as we moved into this October, I could really feel as if it had taken form, it had taken shape in such a way that there was so much kind of clarity around it. It was like deeply integrated that it felt that now was the time to share it. And I really do feel that this is going to talk to many of you that are watching this, many of you that are watching it. I am really deeply sure that you're going to relate to it at some level, you're going to resonate with it, and it's going to speak to you and speak to a very, very deep place within you. Just for reference now, if you haven't watched Mark of the Witch, it may well be a really good time to watch that now, because that'll give you a little bit of the backstory to what I'm talking about over the last several winters. This is something that is stirred up, this is something that has been percolating within me and within us, and it will give you that foundation to what we're going to now show and share. So I will pop a link in the video description for Mark of the Witch, and this is something that myself and Joe, who I collaborate with on the Earth Journey side of things, those deep ceremonies and those deep rituals that we facilitate, we nurture, we nourish, it's something that has really taken shape between us. And what I'm going to share with you now is a mixture of what we've both penned and also our living, breathing, physical, tangible experiences. Okay, so I'm just going to read this to you, and this really does kind of spark some seed thoughts. When we weave and direct love back through time, we heal and nourish ourselves also. For they are us and we are them. So last night was Hunter's Moon. Hunter's Moon. Now I just want you to think about that for a moment. So Hunter's Moon, full moon in October, by the name of Hunter's Moon. Okay, just think about that for a moment. Just really kind of think about that. So last night we ventured out into the forest after dark, though darkness never came that night. The Hunter's Moon lit up the land with a silvery glow, like a searchlight for those seeking. We sought to right a wrong. We came across the perfect spot, a memorial bench with vast views that stretched southwest across the county. The moon was in the east, shining down upon us through a leafless tree, guiding us, supporting us, protecting us. We sat to settle and ground. Tawny owls hooted to each other through the stillness, and the clashing of antlers could be heard from down the hill. And that was really something. You know, you could hear this clashing of antlers, the sound being carried down from the bottom of the hill up across the valley up to the top. We had this vast view, an incredible place up on Ashdown Forest, and we could just see for, well, in daylight you can see for miles and miles and miles, and you could see, and they just like the land was just bathed in this silvery hue of moonlight. and you could hear these tawny owls. One was down the bottom of the valley, and one was behind us, and they were calling to each other. And there in the distance, light of distant villages flickered silently on the horizon. A very gentle breeze joined the clear night chill, then ushered in some friendly scattered clouds, though none too thick to hide our guardian, Grandmother Moon. An ancient chieftain of the land on which we sat came to call, tall and mighty, strong yet gentle, a striking female protector of the natural world around. Something that no matter where I go, one of the first things I always like to do, and it naturally happens when I'm with Joe as well, it's like it's just something that we both really resonate with, and we both get that when you go out onto the land, one of the first things we do is we sit and we meet the land. We meet the land and allow the land to meet us, and we meet the land, and there's this bit of time where you just become at one with it, and then you kind of sink into the fabric. You know, I think I've shared with you before an ancestral practice called utasita, which means to sit out, and when you kind of sit out in that way, you begin to drop into the fabric, so you become at one with it. You know, I think, you know, we have been really led away from the land, and we've become separate from it. So it's this sense of, you know, reweaving those connections back, reweaving those threads. And you know, as we drop into the fabric of it, you know, I'm listening very gently, and I'm listening very deeply, and I'm kind of in a sense of reverence, and gently bow my head down to the land, literally and metaphorically. And you know, I'm meeting it with goodness and heart, and you know, I'm kind of in a way seeking permission to be there, and I listen for those guardian spirits, I listen for those land wights, I listen for the spirits of the land to kind of show themselves, and feel my way into that space, and feel my way into the fabric of the land around me. And I felt this chieftain, this female chieftain, and that's the thing, you know, is like going back, the wisdom keepers, the priestesses, the sages, you know, those that led the tribes spiritually, and physically, they were the female, you know, and it was of that ilk. You know, they were deeply connected to the land, and you know, we were led away from that, and there was this huge, you know, splintering, and this huge rupture, this huge tear that ripped through all of it, that went into the patriarchal way of doing things, and it was like leading away from the heart, you know, leading away from the land. You know, I've said it before, but I will say it again, is like, you know, at one time, you know, the innate was around us. It was within the stream, it was within the river, it was in the mountain, it was within the trees, it was within the hedge. You know, that's where the goddess resides. You know, she was in amongst the land around us, and we were a part of the land, and we had this interconnected relationship with the divine. And then the patriarchal system come along, and the church come along, and it was like, actually, God's up there, you know. So we were led away from this organic relationship with the divine, with the gods and the goddesses who were amongst us, who were around us, and we had this living, breathing, tangible relationship with them, to being ripped away from us, and it's now up here. You know, it's out of reach. You know, it's like we've been completely effed over, we've been completely screwed over, and we've been led away. and what we're going to share, what I'm going to share within this story is an echo of that harm as well. But yeah, this chieftain appeared, and you know, I could feel her with this blanket. I've got a little blanket around me. I could feel her, you know, wearing this green blanket, and this red, striking red hair, and these freckles on her face, and this feeling of a marking that felt like it was ash and plant dye, marking underneath her eyes. One eye in particular, a right eye, which is interesting. I don't know. I'm gonna kind of like look into the reasoning maybe behind that, or just deeply listen when I'm there, or deeply listen when I'm quiet, and see if I can feel my way into that. And then where the blanket met, there was this pin brooch. It was very heavy, but woven into it and forged into it was a boar's head. There was this sense of a boar's head. So she felt very regal, authoritarian, but there was this warmth that was coming from her. So we felt welcomed into that land, and in my mind's eye I could just see these roundhouses across the heathland, as if I was seeing what was. And that was a very, very, very powerful feeling, you know. So there she was, an ancient chieftain of the land on which we sat came to call. Tall and mighty, strong yet gentle, a striking female protector of the natural world around. We cleared the air by letting go of events of the week that had sought to disrupt their flow, then gently, symbolically swept the area with the age-old besom. The altar was set, candle to shine a light of remembrance, incense to smudge and to send our voices to the wind, spring water to cleanse, apple cake to nourish, and herbs to fill the bloat bowl. Those of you not sure of the bloat bowl, it's a beautiful wooden bowl. Actually, let me just get it off the altar. Beautiful wooden bowl, and there in the centre of it, as I've described many times, is the wayfinder, the Nordic compass. And the intention, this was gifted to me, and the intention was that this be used within our community. A bloat bowl is an offering bowl, and it being the wayfinder, our community always is able to find its way. Powerful alchemy, powerful magic woven into that intention. So yeah, this is the bloat bowl. So spring water to cleanse, apple cake to nourish, and herbs to fill the bloat bowl, mugwort and rose petals. Our moon right dreamers and sweeteners, with seed to sow our heartfelt intent. Everything by association. A flute was played to open our rites, a soulful tune of remembrance. And the flute we used, beautiful cherry wood flute with moonstone set at the base of the flute. Again, powerful alchemy, powerful association. Then we raised their drums and beat the bounds, a rousing rhythm to chase away all doubt and fear, a booming fanfare to welcome in the spirits of the land. Then the words we said, our prayers to charge the bloat. Then words of remembrance. We remembered the events of centuries ago, when countless innocents were preyed upon and tortured, many to death, in the name of the Christian God. Renounced as heretics. These were the wise women, the healers of body and soul, the midwives, the herbalists, the humble servants of Mother Earth, who sought to bring relief to those in suffering, deemed evil for the slightest notion, such as a shape of a face or colour of hair, blamed for acts which by their wild invention could never be proven. We read their names, those recorded of our land, and acknowledged and honoured all those whose names are lost, for there are so many. They live amongst us still, their wounds longing to heal. Tears were shed, tears for the fear, the terror, tears for the pain and misery, tears for the brutal injustice. By those who dared to torture and kill in the name of their merciful God. Tears for the innocents, tears for the years of unfounded blame and guilt, tears for the mockery and misunderstanding, tears for the wisdom lost and faith denied, tears with a solemn oath to go forth, honour and remember with regularity and ceremony those souls who were ripped from their time by men with a cross to bear. We scattered the bloat herbs to the wind, followed by the water from the cleansing spring. We ate some apple cake and left an offering. Then we beat our drums with force to drive away the sadness, to heal the wounds and to seal our oath. Our right was done. Apple. Let's talk about apple for a moment. Apple, when I crafted the cake, because I had this feeling of making a cake to feed the land, to feed the spirits. An apple was clear as day, and it wasn't until that evening when I was talking to Joe and said, you know why? And I went, well, it's old symbol, ancient symbol for wisdom, but also it's the original sin. You know, apple has been such a powerful symbol, but been inverted like so much of this. There's been this huge inversion. It's been totally distorted. So apple was the fruit of temptation, of the original sin. You know, the high church held that sin firmly in the feminine, for it was Eve they blamed for the fall of man. So that belief fueled fear in men and incited their dominance and force, the patriarchal, coming away from the gentle but fierce heart of that divine feminine. And they even justified to them, they perceived superiority and strength. Yet apple is the fruit of love, whose centre cut crossways shows a perfect star. Cut down displays a yoni. She provides healing and sustenance, nurture and nourishment. In Greek mythology, Dionysus, god of harvest, offered apples to win the love of Aphrodite, the goddess of love and fertility. It is love and healing we send to the spirits of the past and onward then to the future. Over the last few winters, as I say, this has been alchemizing, that it has been percolating, you know, and alongside that I'd been blessed to study ancestral inherited trauma alongside the most beloved mentor, an elder, Bridget Nielsen. And being a part of her community was such a gift, something that was fused so beautifully within my own work as a holistic medium. Seeing those patterns and trauma that is inherited from generation to generation and how it shows up in the here and now. You know, Joe and I were often blessed to work with the oldest of souls, medicine folk, men and women, that carry deep wisdom, yet alongside that deep wisdom is often rooted trauma, some of which we have come to recognize as the witch wound. Here's a few questions to just kind of gently sit with. You know, does speaking your truth feel deeply unsafe? Does being authentically seen by others feel threatening? Do you dim your own light, shrink yourself, and hide your gifts? Do you doubt and diminish your emotions and intuition? Do you often feel like you're both too much and not enough? Do you feel awkwardness or guilt or a shame or a kind of pushback for charging for your services as your work as a healer and your work and offerings within the world? Because after all, it's something that was outlawed, it was something that was prohibited. So I think we've got many healers, incredible, I say, incredible people that are of deep service, but they've got this, like, they're pushing back from their greatness, and when it comes to charging for their services, there is this deep pushback, as if they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. It's like, because that wounding goes back, it was prohibited, it was outlawed. And I really do believe that that is showing up. And the other thing is, I feel that the most greatest and oldest of souls are amongst us now because of the times we're living in. They're needed the most. As Spirit said recently, and they say often, is we're not here to fear these times, we're here to shape them. So some of those questions, kind of sit with them, because, you know, I think many of you that are watching this, many of you are listening to this, you're going to be relating to it. You know, how often, you know, people have this untangible fear of water, this fear of fire or burning, weird strange dreams around both of those things, fear of tight closed in spaces like claustrophobia that they can't really explain or understand, a fear of water. You know, we may be, and I don't think there's maybe in it, but we may be carrying that ancient spiritual trauma known as the witch wound. Here's another way of putting it: the witch wound is a collective, intergenerational spiritual wound that keeps people afraid of their own magic and power. Celeste Larson wrote that beautiful quote. So for the month of October, and we're 10 days in, so this felt right to release this on the 10th. of October. For the month of October, and for lots of reasons, alchemical reasons, number 10, a solid foundation. You know, we want to root this, and we want to alchemize this, and we want to continue to move from harm to healing. Okay, so for the month of October, we will be exploring this in more detail from the historical perspective, the historical persecution of witches, to how the witch wound shows up in modern times. And we will be exploring this in so much more depth. Head over to our Instagram and you will see our daily posts, our daily content. If you kind of go back a few days, you'll pick up the beginning. And also over within our community that can be discovered over at www.shanegadd.com. If you click onto Earth Journeys, you can go and explore. We are offering a Patreon space, and we're building a gentle, very gentle community in there, which kind of holds and holds that space around us for our online and offline community. So we also do physical rituals and ceremonies that are anchored within the Wheel of the Year. We also are next year going to be offering some immersive experiences, some initiatory experiences out on the land, where we're going to be taking people into the landscape, and the landscape in itself is going to be that rite of passage. You know, these are doorways, they are gateways, they are thresholds that move us from one place to another. So in a way, they are initiation, they are a rite of passage. It's all about becoming, you know, like really tapping into who you really are, what is in there. You know, like people say to me, you know, Shane, you know, how did you learn this in this lifetime? And that is a ridiculous notion for a start. Okay, there's no way you could learn this just within one lifetime. Okay, so what Joe and I's intention is to take those medicine people out there that, you know, are kind of like coming into the remembrance, you know, because it is a becoming. I know that it is a ridiculous notion to think that what I do at the level I do is that it's just been learnt in this lifetime. It's been lifetimes, and what this is all about is activating the remembrance, which is why this wound is coming up as well. And we're not the only people to really get behind that with the beat of the drum, you know. And it is this sense of where we are in time right now is, you know, we are being woven back into the center. We are in a cycle of return, and, you know, the old medicine practices are really coming back because the earth is releasing her stories so that we can remember. So it is all of what we are nourishing and nurturing and offering and holding is about that becoming everything that you're designed to be, to open up and access that medicine within inside you, because that is the gift that you have for the world around you and those that you hold dear. Long video, but a journey, and as always, a heartfelt pleasure. I will drop all the relevant links within, and if you feel inspired, come and join us over our community. It's £1 per month, £1 per month, and you can access some deeper, richer content there as well. But in the meantime, as always, keep shining.